Hey Internet, Harris here. For the last several years, Apple's been releasing budget iPads once a year, around $300 to $330, and this year is no exception. We have the 2019 iPad, which comes in at $309 for students, which is an awesome price. I want to see if it is worth getting for school purposes, and for the past 2 weeks, I have been using it for school, in class, every day. Let's go ahead and see if the 2019 iPad 10.2 is good for school. And this is presented by Paper-like Screen Protectors. Their version 2 is now out. So for this price point at $309 for students, it comes in with 32 gigabytes of storage, which isn't bad. 32 gigabytes will be fine for taking notes and for having a few apps, and whatever else you might need. A lot of streaming will be fine. If you want to download a lot of apps and have a lot of movies and TV shows also downloaded on your device, you're probably going to want to upgrade to 128 gigabytes of storage for an extra $100. So why is this iPad like $500 less than my iPad Pro? Well, I think of iPads like I think of cars. So there's those luxury cars, the high-end exotic cars, and you can name your favorite. And what it does is drive with a lot of other bells and whistles, drives very quickly. But if you think about a very basic car, a Honda Civic or whatever the basic cars are right now, what do they still do? They still drive, but for a lot less money with a lot less features. And so the iPad budget version just drives. It does what an iPad does without the face scanner, without the extra speakers, without, all the extra bells and whistles. And so you get what the iPad offers with this low price point. Let's go ahead and talk about that. So of course the new feature to this year's iPad is the slightly bigger screen size. At 10.2 inches, it's bigger than any other of the budget iPads in the past, the 9.7 inches, and it's pretty simple. It just allows you to have more on the screen when you're browsing the web, when you're taking notes, when you're writing papers, when you're sending emails. You just have a little bit more of everything. It makes it a little bit closer to the size of a piece of paper, although it definitely is still smaller, and even smaller than the iPad Pro 11 and of course the iPad 12.9. But it's a bigger screen, which is nice, and it's still a device that you can just kind of slip into a bag and not really worry about. That's what I've been doing with this. No case, just putting it in my bag, taking it to class. Now the screen isn't amazing, so it's very reflective. It does not have an anti-reflective coating, and you can kind of just see that right now. It's not the end of the world. If you angle it correctly, it's not really an issue. Of course, you will get fingerprints on it, which is standard for touchscreens, and it doesn't have a laminated display. So on this, you'll see a black bezel around the edge of the screen, and you'll notice a slight gap between the glass and the actual display itself. It's subtle if you've never used a laminated display, but if you have, it's something you can get used to if you have to. So it's not an amazing display by any means, but it gets the job done. And it's bright, and it's colorful, and it's touchscreen. And it's what you would expect from a cheap iPad. It's good. Now, if you want to get rid of the glare and get rid of the fingerprints and make it much better for taking notes, especially with a stylus, then Paper-like, the sponsor, is definitely the screen protector for you. They do have pre-orders available for this iPad. They don't have it out yet, unfortunately, so I can't show it in video, but it's the screen protector that I use on all my iPads for taking notes. It makes it feel a lot more like you're writing on paper, which is really cool. And if you're going to be taking notes with a stylus on this iPad, I definitely recommend checking out Paper-like. Check the link in the description. They have the original or the new version, which has a little bit better quality and better texture. Now, the other new feature to this iPad this year is the smart connector on the bottom. And this means that you can use it with Apple's keyboard case. The super slim keyboard case that doesn't feel great to type on, but is slim and expensive. And I wouldn't recommend that for this iPad because you can get something like this Logitech To Go keyboard, which also just slips into your bag, which is cheaper and doesn't take up that space. Or you can get a nice Bluetooth case from Amazon. I'll leave some linked in the description. But Apple's case is just really expensive for an iPad that costs this little. You'd be adding almost 50% of the cost with a keyboard. So if you want to go that route, if you do type a lot of papers, then Apple's keyboard will be an awesome option to pair with this. But otherwise, Amazon has some great keyboard options for keyboard cases or Bluetooth keyboards. But if we're talking about iPads for school, of course, I'm talking about taking notes, because GoodNotes and Notability and OneNote and NoteShelf and all these other applications for taking notes on the iPad are incredible with the Apple Pencil, or even cheaper and works just the same for this iPad. the Logitech Crayon. So with the Logitech Crayon, you can actually charge via Lightning. You don't have to stick it into the iPad, which has its pros and cons, and it's a little bit bulkier, but it's cheaper, and the stylus tip is virtually identical. So if you want to use a stylus for taking notes on your iPad, I would definitely recommend checking out the Logitech Crayon instead of Apple's, but they're both great. And ultimately, at the end of the day, both of these options allow you to take incredible handwritten notes on your iPad. I made a video comparing GoodNotes and Notability, which are my two favorite note-taking applications. I'll leave those linked down in the description. They're better than ever with iPad OS, and it makes for really, really organized, neat, and revisable notes for your iPad, which is super great. And finally, we have iPad OS on here, which makes this compete really well with the more expensive iPads because it has all the great software features you want. Files is better and allows you to access thumb drives and hard drives. Safari is better, allows you to use native desktop sites a lot more efficiently than you could before, and just better optimization for desktop sites. You can download things in Safari now, including pictures and files and videos. Great. And then multitasking is killer. So you can have a note on one half and you can have mail or Safari or videos or a book or anything you want on the right half. So I can scan a PDF of a book I'm reading and I have that side by side with a note, so I can take notes while I read, or I can use the drag and drop that's in Notability and GoodNotes now to have two notes side by side to compare and study, and it's awesome. Of course, you also get dark mode and a lot of other great features, so iPadOS really makes this a really cool device, including mouse support. If you want to take around a small mouse, like I have this Logitech MX Anywhere 2S, makes it great to throw in my bag, and if I want to browse the web with the mouse, I can do that, as well as Logitech's portable keyboard. I can get a nice little mini setup going on the iPad. So this hasn't been improved in speed over the previous generation, just basically the support for Apple's own keyboard and a slightly bigger screen. Nonetheless, it's an awesome device for taking notes with a stylus like the Logitech Crayon or the Apple Pencil, and it has iPadOS, which is awesome. So this is a really capable device, and you don't need to spend a lot more money on the iPad Pro just to use it for school, for scanning documents, taking notes, and using multitasking. This is everything you really need. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this iPad. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and check out Paperlike with link in the description. Thanks for watching.